Not sure if you've seen the movie Courageous. It starts out with this man who's at a gas station and he's gassing up his car, and then he gets in, turns on his truck rather, and he notices there's goop on the windshield. So he gets out and gets the thing to clean the windshield, and it's dry. So he then goes to another place to go get the thing to clean the windshield, and as he's doing that, in that short time, someone comes, runs into his truck, and starts to steal it and driving off. So he runs, and so the door is already closed. He's reaching through the window, holding onto the wheel, trying to get this guy to let go of the wheel and pull over the truck as they're driving down the road. And this guy is punching him, and he's punching him back, and all this stuff. And finally, they end up on the side of the road. The guy whose truck it is goes flying off, rolling in the dirt, and the guy who stole the truck runs off. Meanwhile, people are coming to see what was going on, what happened, is he okay? And this guy is crawling towards his truck. The prize of his life, right? And he goes and reaches out and says, "Don't worry about the truck, don't worry about the truck." He says, "I'm not worried about the truck." And he opens the back door to his truck, and inside is his baby in a car seat. When the sheriffs get there, they talk about this, and he says, you could have killed yourself. And he says, well, my child is worth it. And throughout then the rest of the movie, they use that analogy of holding on to the wheel or letting go of the wheel. Because there he was on the side of the truck, holding on to the wheel, trying to save his child. And this movie follows 5 different fathers in their roles as father. And how the times when they've let go of the wheel, how they've tried to grab hold of it again. It's a fun movie. It is rated PG-13, so just be aware for those of you who have little ones. But it is a movie well worth watching. And on this Father's Day, it's an invitation for us to look, for those of you who are fathers, to look, have you held on to the wheel? Have you held on to the wheel? We look at the way that fathers have been portrayed over the years. We look, for instance, in the 50s with Father Knows Best, right? And then even into the 70s, we got the Brady Bunch, where there was some humor and stuff, but you still had, Mike Brady. He was still, he was a good father figure. He wasn't made too much fun of. It was the kids that were all having the squabbles and stuff. But now, what do we have for father icons? Homer Simpson, Family Guy. Not exactly people that we want to look up to and say, rather we've got these doofuses who represent fatherhood. All these people who have let go of the wheel. And so many of our young men, unfortunately, then are looking up to their fathers, or lack thereof, and seeing that men are supposed to be doofuses. That boys will be boys, and if we're going to do our boy stuff, we better go down into our man cave where no one else has to be affected by it. We talk about toxic masculinity instead of talking about how men are called truly to be men. I'm not going to try to explain what that looks like, because I'm not really sure. I know what it looks like in my own life. But I do know this. The statistics show that if a father does not attend church, even if a mom is really faithful, only 2% of the children remain faithful. But if a mother is not faithful, but a father does attend church regularly, 44% of those children remain faithful. I don't know why, and I'm not sure the reason behind this, but men are called to be men even here in church, to live up to this faithful call. And that's part of holding on to the wheel, living up to that grace. In the gospel today, we hear about Jesus, who is asleep in this boat. I always love this story. Here is Jesus asleep in the midst of a storm. And this storm is not just kind of a little nice storm. This is a raging storm. Waves are coming over the bow. You got to see how tired Jesus must be if he's sleeping in the midst of all of this. Now, the church has taught us there are many different ways of interpreting Scripture. One is the literal way, which we look at this and we say, what's really happening? Jesus was asleep in the midst of a storm, and then the disciples woke him. He got up, he rebuked the storm, and it calmed down. Okay, that's the literal meaning of what's going on. But the church also says that we're called to pray through and interpret the Scriptures spiritually. And St. Augustine looks at this in two different ways. One is that he sees, okay, Jesus is asleep. Why do we lose faith that he is still with us? On the other side, when we look at our own lives and our hearts, he says, Jesus is asleep. Why have we let him fall asleep in our hearts, in our lives? And I think too often, we've allowed Jesus to sleep in our lives. Instead of stepping out in faith and seeing Jesus as more than just a Saturday evening obligation that we fall on, but rather that he's meant to be alive and awake and living through all the areas of our lives. Is it any wonder then when the storms of the world toss up, whether they be COVID or divisions in our country, or anything else that's going on in our lives, is it any wonder, since we've let Jesus fall asleep, that then we're led to discouragement and despair? We're called to keep Jesus awake in our lives. That every area of our life, every part of our lives, is meant to have Jesus alive and active and moving. Not just, of course, as I started out by talking, with fathers, but all of us. I think sometimes some fathers need, though, a kick in the tush, though, to wake them up a little bit more than before. Because too often church is seen as a woman thing, even though it's, let's see, what was the first church? Jesus and 12 guys. But we looked at it's everybody is called to have Jesus alive in our hearts. How do we experience Jesus? How do we allow him to be awake and living in the different areas of our lives? Through all the traumas and the trials and the struggles and the problems, have we allowed him to go to sleep? Well, the beautiful thing is we can go to him, we can fly to him and say, wake up, Jesus. Don't you care that we're perishing? And he's saying, oh, what? Oh, now you come to me. No, he doesn't say it like that. He loves us too much. But then he'll say, okay, quiet, be still to the storm. And he looks at us and says, do you not have faith? Do you not yet have faith? Why are you terrified? May we truly allow Jesus to be awake in all of the areas of our lives, that we don't let him sleep, but rather that we allow him to transform each and every part of our lives, drawing us into the heart of the Father.